The world believed Ethan Graves was dead. For months, his name had been wiped from every database, his records buried under layers of classified encryption. His body was never found, and no agency took credit for his death. To the world, he was a ghost, a forgotten operative lost to time, and for a while, he let them believe it. Hiding in the shadows was the only way to survive. No safe houses, no contacts, no digital footprint. He moved like a phantom through cities that never knew his name, sleeping with one eye open, waiting for the day his past would find him again. Tonight, it did. The glow of a laptop screen flickered across Ethan's face as he sat in a rundown motel in Prague. His body still bore the scars of the last war, but the pain was distant now. All that mattered was the video playing in front of him, a global broadcast that should have been impossible. On the screen, a man stood in front of a group of masked operatives. He moved with Ethan's precision, spoke with Ethan's voice, carried Ethan's presence. They thought they could bury us. Now we rise. The first strike begins in 24 hours. Ethan's breath stilled. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, analyzing every frame. This wasn't just a deepfake. It was surgical. Every detail. His posture, the way his jaw tightened after speaking, the faint scar above his eyebrow, perfectly replicated. Whoever had created this video didn't just copy him. They knew him, and now they were using his identity to orchestrate an attack. Ethan exhaled slowly, forcing himself to think. The video was deliberate. It wasn't leaked in dark corners of the web. It was broadcasted through major news networks, government feeds, encrypted military channels. The world's intelligence agencies would already be moving. Interpol, the CIA, black ops units from every major nation. By morning, Ethan wouldn't just be a fugitive. He would be the most wanted man on the planet. His mind raced through possibilities. Who had done this? The syndicate was gone. Kane was dead. Mercer was buried. The people who once controlled him were either eliminated or in hiding. And yet, someone still had access to his past, his voice, his identity. That meant one thing. This wasn't just about framing him. It was personal. Ethan closed the laptop and grabbed his gear. He was already moving before he had a plan. Instinct over thought, action over hesitation. The source of the video had to be traced. He needed to find the man pretending to be him. Because if someone wanted to play Ethan Graves, they were about to learn how the real one played back. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe for more awesome content. And while you're at it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. All right, let's keep going. The cold wind howled as Ethan stepped off the train, the icy air biting through his jacket. The city of Murmansk, Russia, stretched. Before him, a frozen graveyard of Soviet-era ruins and modern military installations. It was the last place on Earth he wanted to be, but the coordinates embedded in the video's metadata had led him here. He had to know the truth. For the past 48 hours, he had traced the broadcast's origin across 3 continents. Every digital footprint, every signal bounce, every layer of encryption had led him to one place, a decommissioned research facility just outside the city. Its official records buried under classified military archives. But Ethan didn't need official records. He had his instincts, and they told him that whatever was waiting for him inside that facility wasn't just about the video. It was about him. Ethan moved under the cover of darkness, weaving through the snow-covered wasteland that surrounded the compound. The facility loomed in the distance, a brutalist structure of reinforced steel and concrete, its perimeter lined with outdated but still active surveillance systems. He had seen places like this before. Black sites, places where men disappeared. Slipping past the outer defenses was easy. Outdated motion sensors, a few bored guards relying on technology instead of instinct. Ethan had been trained to move like a ghost. Tonight, he was a shadow in the storm. Once inside, the air grew thick with the scent of damp concrete and machine oil. The facility had power. Someone had reactivated it. Someone was still using it. Ethan pressed forward, past empty barracks and rusted control rooms until he reached the central archive. The monitors flickered to life as he approached the screen. bathing the room in a sickly blue glow. Lines of code scrolled rapidly, deciphering themselves into classified records. And then, a single file name appeared on the screen. Project Lazarus, Phase 2. Ethan's pulse quickened. He had never heard of it. But the photo attached to the file stopped him cold. It was his face. He clicked the file open. Mission logs, psychological evaluations, training regimens, all of them tied to his name. But there was something else. His name wasn't alone. Another designation sat beside it. Subject 01. Ethan Graves, Subject 02. Active status. The blood in his veins turned to ice. He wasn't alone. Someone else, another version of him, was still out there, still operational, still following orders. Ethan clenched his jaw. The video broadcast wasn't just an attempt to frame him. It was a message. Someone wanted him to know they had replaced him. A noise echoed from the hallway. Heavy boots, military precision. They had known he would come. The trap was already closing. Ethan. Graves had spent years hunting ghosts. Tonight, he had become one. The dim glow of the computer screen cast flickering shadows across the abandoned research facility, illuminating the classified files that shouldn't have existed. The more Ethan scrolled, the tighter his grip became. Project Lazarus, a name that meant nothing to the world, a name that meant everything to him. It wasn't just an operation, it was a rewrite. Every mission, every memory, every moment that had shaped him into a lethal operative, it had all been copied, and now someone else was living it. The facility. Logs revealed the truth, in brutal detail. Subject 01, terminated. Subject 02, active status. Ethan's breath slowed. Terminated. Was that what they had planned for him? A replacement so perfect that when he was gone, no one would ever question it? The syndicate hadn't just trained him, they had duplicated him. And somewhere out there, his double wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was taking Ethan's place. A noise echoed down the corridor. Calculated, controlled footsteps. Ethan's instincts flared. He shut off the monitor, gripping his gun as he stepped into the darkness. He wasn't alone. He moved silently through the facility, the cold air thick with the scent of old machine oil and metal. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with two-way mirrors that reflected his movements back at him. But then, he stopped. One reflection didn't move. Ethan's breath stilled as he turned, his grip tightening on his weapon. The man in the glass stepped forward. Same build, same posture, same unreadable expression. And when he spoke, it was Ethan's own voice. "They told me you'd come," the double said. Ethan didn't blink. "Who are you?" A slow smirk. "I'm you, the version they perfected." Ethan raised his gun. So did the double. Perfectly synchronized, Ethan had fought the best. Elite assassins, syndicate enforcers, killers who never missed. But this was different. This was him. His double moved first, a flick of the wrist, a blur of motion. Ethan barely dodged the first strike, feeling the rush of air as a blade sliced past his ribs. He countered fast, snapping, a punch toward the double's jaw, only for it to be blocked with his own precision. Every attack was met with an identical reaction. Every strike, every dodge, every instinct mirrored. The fight was brutal, fast, relentless. But as they clashed, Ethan saw it, a fraction of a second hesitation, a movement too perfect, too calculated. The double wasn't adapting. He was following a program, and that meant he could be broken. Ethan feigned a stumble, letting his double take the upper hand. The double struck, expecting Ethan to counter the same way he had before. But Ethan didn't. He changed. A sudden shift, a move the double hadn't been trained to predict. Ethan let himself lose balance. Just for a second. Just enough to let his double commit to the kill shot. Then, Ethan moved first. A brutal strike too. The throat, a twist of the wrist. And suddenly, Ethan was the one standing over his copy. The double gasped, blinking up at him. For the first time, he looked confused. "You're not me," Ethan said coldly. The double's eyes flickered with something unreadable, maybe fear, maybe realization. But before he could say another word, a single gunshot echoed through the hall. Ethan exhaled, lowering his weapon as his double's body slumped to the ground. For a brief moment, the room was silent. Then, the facility's speakers crackled to life, and a voice, smooth, measured, familiar, spoke. "You were never meant to survive this long, Ethan." His breath stilled. The voice wasn't his double's. It was the voice of the man who had created him. And just like that, Ethan realized the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Ethan Graves had fought the best elite operatives. Syndicate, enforcers, killers who never missed, but nothing had prepared him for this. Because this time, he wasn't just fighting a ghost from his past, he was fighting himself. The underground facility was cold, the dim fluorescent lights flickering overhead. The air smelled of machine oil, blood, and something deeper. Betrayal. Ethan's breath came slow, steady, his gun trained on the man standing opposite him. Same stance, same grip, same unreadable expression, a perfect copy. The other Ethan smirked. "I thought you'd be taller." Ethan didn't blink. "I thought you'd be dead by now." The copy tilted his head. "That's the difference between us. You were trained to survive." A pause. "I was trained to replace you." Then, he moved. The first strike was fast, too fast. Ethan barely dodged the blade that cut through the air where his throat had been. He countered with a sharp elbow, but the double blocked it perfectly. Every move Ethan made, his copy anticipated. Every attack he launched, his double mirrored. It was like fighting a reflection, one that had studied every inch of him, every instinct, every reaction. Steel clashed against steel as their knives met, sparks flashing in the dim light. A deadly ballet between two versions of the same man. Then Ethan saw it, a hesitation, a microsecond delay in the double's reaction. The clone wasn't adapting, he was following a script. And that meant he could be broken. Ethan feigned a stumble, letting his double take the upper hand. The copy lunged, expecting Ethan to counter the same way he had before, but Ethan didn't. He changed. A sudden shift in weight, a move outside the predictable patterns. He let himself fall. The clone hesitated, just long enough for Ethan to twist, driving his knife deep into the copy's side. The double gasped, eyes wide, looking down at the blade buried in his ribs. Ethan twisted it. "You're not me." The double staggered, coughing blood, but still managed to smirk. "Maybe not," he rasped. "But she is." Ethan's body tensed. Then, a gun cocked behind him, Ethan turned slowly. Jessica Hale stood in the doorway, a gun raised. Pointed at him. Her expression was unreadable. Ethan's grip tightened around his knife. "If you're going to shoot me, do it." Jessica's jaw tensed. "I should." Silence stretched between them. Then, she shot the double instead. The copy collapsed, a bullet between his eyes. Jessica exhaled, lowering her weapon. "The way I see it, we don't need two of you running around." Ethan studied her carefully. "Whose side are you on?" Jessica slid a new clip into her pistol. "Ask me again when we're not about to die." Because behind her, alarms were blaring, and more were coming. The underground facility was burning. Sparks rained from shattered light fixtures, casting flickering shadows across the steel corridors. The air was thick with smoke and the metallic tang of blood. Somewhere behind them, alarms blared, a last, desperate warning that the compound was falling apart. Ethan Graves kept moving. Jessica was right behind him, silent but fast. Her gun, still warm from the last kill. They had fought their way out of worse before. But this time, Ethan felt something heavier pressing against his chest. Not the bruises, not the exhaustion. The truth. He had killed his own copy, the perfect replica, the man who was supposed to replace him. And now, with nowhere left to run, Jessica was the only one who had answers. They burst into a locked server room, and Jessica immediately started working, fingers flying over the controls of the last active console. Ethan stood behind her, gripping his side where the clone had cut him. "Talk," he said. Jessica didn't stop typing. "Not yet." "Now." She exhaled, glancing over her shoulder. "You were never supposed to make it this far, Ethan." He didn't react. He just waited. Jessica swallowed. Project Lazarus wasn't about creating an agent. It was about creating an army. Ethan frowned. You mean clones? Jessica shook her head. Not just clones. Weapons. Programmed operatives who wouldn't question orders. No hesitation, no conscience, just pure, engineered obedience. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle deep inside him. So, what was I? He asked, voice low. Jessica hesitated. Then she looked him in the eye. You were the test run. The words cut deeper than any blade. Ethan had spent his entire life believing he was the hunter. That he had been forged through blood and war. Molded by experience, sharpened by his choices. But none of it had been a choice. He was just the prototype, the first successful version, the one they learned from, the mistakes they corrected. Ethan's fingers curled into a fist. Why tell me now? Jessica turned back to the screen. The data was loading, years of classified reports, hidden experiments, the history of Project Lazarus. She didn't look at him when she answered. Because they don't need you anymore, she said. Her voice was quiet, final. They have the next generation, the real models, perfect soldiers. Ethan's breath slowed. The facility, the broadcast, the clone. They hadn't been trying to replace him, they already had. The screen flickered and Jessica tensed. Ethan leaned forward, scanning the last decrypted file. A termination order. Not just for him, for all prototypes. The syndicate wasn't just moving forward. They were cleaning up the past. Jessica stepped back, eyes meeting his. They don't want you dead because you're dangerous, Ethan. Her fingers hovered over the console. They want you dead because you're obsolete. Ethan stared at the screen, a list of names, operatives, prototypes, all erased, all except one. Status: termination pending. Ethan Gravsa sound echoed down the corridor. Heavy boots, weapons clicking into place. They had found them. Ethan looked at Jessica. Are you with me? Jessica didn't answer right away. Then slowly she raised her gun. Let's finish this, she said. The door burst open. The final battle had begun. The air was thick with tension, the metallic scent of burnt circuitry and blood lingering in the destroyed server room. Ethan Graves stood over the flickering monitors, scanning the last decrypted files of Project Lazarus. Jessica was beside him, her grip tight on her gun as the sound of boots echoed through the corridor. Kurt Teru. We're out of time. The syndicate wasn't sending soldiers to capture them. They were sending executioners. Ethan had fought his way through impossible odds before. But this time, he knew he couldn't win with force. Not against them. Not against what they had built. If he wanted to survive, if he wanted to end this, he needed to do something far more dangerous than fight. He had to outthink them. Jessica's fingers flew across the console, breaking through the last firewall. A map of the facility blinked onto the screen. A honeycomb of underground levels. Secret. Labs and restricted areas at the center? The Lazarus Hub. It wasn't just a database. It was the nerve center for the next generation of engineered operatives. A system designed to remotely program, erase, and control every asset in the program. And the next phase? It was already in motion. Ethan clenched his jaw. They weren't just replacing him. They were about to unleash an army. We can shut it down, Jessica said, eyes darting over the data. If we override the neural framework, we can corrupt the system before it deploys. Ethan exhaled. Not good enough. Jessica frowned. You want something better? Ethan's mind raced. Shutting it down wasn't enough. They would rebuild. They always did. But what if, instead of destroying it, he took control? Jessica saw the shift in his expression. Ethan, we hijacked the program, he interrupted. Rewrite the orders, turn their own assets against them. Jessica's hesitation was brief. Then she smirked. You're insane, she said. Ethan loaded his last magazine. I know. Jessica's hands flew across the keyboard, embedding Ethan's override into the system. The Lazarus program resisted, red error messages flashing as the AI tried to block them. But Jessica was faster. Access granted. The screen flooded with new data. Hundreds of operatives, missions, targets, fail-safes, all now under Ethan's control. He stared at the names, the soldiers who, like him, had been turned into weapons. Now they were his army. But then, the final failsafe triggered. Facility. Self-destruct engaged. A robotic voice echoed through the speakers. Jessica's eyes widened. They'd rather burn it all down than let us win. The countdown began. 5 minutes. Ethan exhaled. Then we better move. The walls shook as explosions detonated deep within the facility. Overhead, lights flickered, alarms blaring. Ethan and Jessica sprinted down the corridor, dodging debris as the entire base collapsed around them. Gunfire erupted from the other end of the hallway. Syndicate operatives, desperate to keep them inside. Ethan slid into cover, returning fire, dropping 2 before the others scattered. Jessica hacked the final exit panel, sparks flying as she forced the blast doors open. The final minute ticked down. Ethan turned back. One last time. Behind him, the Lazarus facility, the place that created him, was disappearing into flames. The past was burning, and he was finally walking away. The walls trembled as the first explosion rocked the facility. Overhead, lights flickered, casting long, jagged shadows across the steel corridors. A robotic voice echoed through the crumbling hallways, emotionless and final. Facility self-destruct engaged. 5 minutes until total collapse. Ethan Graves exhaled sharply. 5 minutes. Not enough time to think, only enough time to run. Jessica sprinted ahead, her fingers flying across the last security console, trying to force the blast doors open. Sparks rained down as the system resisted, red warning symbols flashing across the screen. Come on, she muttered. Ethan reloaded his weapon, eyes scanning the smoke-filled corridor behind them. They weren't alone. Footsteps, precise, controlled. A familiar shadow emerged through the haze. The other Ethan, bloodied, battered, but still standing. Leaving already? The copy smirked, voice identical to his own. Ethan raised his gun. Should've stayed dead. The double tilted his head. Funny. I was about to say the same thing. The clone moved first. Fast. A blur of motion as he closed the gap, knife flashing in the dim light. Ethan barely dodged, feeling the blade graze his side. They crashed into the wall, fists colliding, fighting for control. It was a battle of precision, perfect mirrors of each other. Every strike met with an identical counter, every move anticipated, like fighting his own reflection. Ethan gritted his teeth. The clone was too perfect. And that's when it hit him. Perfect means predictable. Instead of blocking the next strike, he took it. The punch landed hard, sending Ethan staggering back, but the clone had overcommitted. In that split second of imbalance, Ethan twisted, driving his knee into the double's ribs, then slamming his elbow across his jaw. The clone hit the ground. Ethan didn't hesitate. One shot. The bullet tore through the copy's skull. This time, he stayed down. Ethan turned, breath ragged. 3 minutes left. Jessica was still at the control panel, her face pale. Doors are jammed, she said. Manual override is in the core. But if I do this... She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Ethan stepped forward. Jessica... She looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. This is where I make it right, she whispered. Then, before he could stop her, she sprinted toward the core. Ethan watched as Jessica vanished behind the thick steel doors, sealing herself inside the core chamber. A second later, the security system rebooted. Exit doors unlocked. Jessica's voice crackled through the radio. Go, Ethan! His throat tightened. Jessica, don't... You finish this, she interrupted. That's an order. Ethan clenched his jaw. 15 seconds left. He turned, and he ran. The ground shook violently as Ethan sprinted through the collapsing corridor. Fire erupted behind him, consuming everything in its path. The exit loomed ahead, a blinding white light at the end of the tunnel. With one final push, he leaped through the threshold, and the world erupted into fire. The blast sent him tumbling across the snow-covered ground outside. Heat scorched his back as the facility crumbled, swallowed by flames and smoke. Silence followed. Jessica was gone, but her sacrifice had bought him freedom. Ethan stared at the inferno, jaw tight, fists clenched. The war wasn't over. But this time, he wasn't running. This time, he was going to end it. Silence. The kind that settles after the storm, after the chaos, after the world has burned. Ethan Graves lay on his back in the snow, the cold biting into his skin. His breath came in ragged gasps, his body aching from the blast that had thrown him clear of the collapsing facility. Behind him, the ruins of Project Lazarus burned. Flames clawed at the sky, thick black smoke twisting into the wind. The Syndicate's experiment was gone, but at what cost? Jessica. Ethan forced himself to sit up, his jaw tightening. She had made her choice, locking herself inside to ensure the base's destruction. He had wanted to stop her, but deep down, he knew she was right. This was bigger than them, bigger than revenge. This was about ending the people who played God. He staggered to his feet, scanning the distant horizon. No sirens, no helicopters. No one was coming. For now, he was just another nameless figure disappearing into the frozen landscape. A man without a past. A man without a future. He pulled out the stolen phone from his jacket, fingers shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. The news feeds were already lighting up. Breaking news. Ex-Syndicate operative. Ethan Graves killed in rogue attack. A video played. A deep fake of him, standing in the Lazarus facility just before the explosion. His own voice echoed back at him. This is the beginning, and nothing can stop what's coming. Ethan's stomach twisted. The world believed the imposter was him. They wanted him to stay dead, but that wasn't going to happen. His phone vibrated. A new message. No sender, no number, just a single line of text. You were never Ethan Graves. You were just the first. His breath stilled. Every muscle in his body locked as he read the words again, his mind racing. What the hell did that mean? Then, another message. They're awake now. Ethan's pulse spiked, his hands tightened into fists. Jessica had died to stop the program. But had she? Had he? Was this never about him at all? The cold wind howled around him, but Ethan no longer felt it. Somewhere, out there in the world, more were coming. And this time, he wasn't going to run. He was going to hunt. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the next part, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated. See you in the next one. Your support means the world.